Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you to everyone for attending our Showcasing Jackson County event today. This is our second virtual community event to date, and we hope that you find the information valuable. We would love to hear your feedback, so please email us or use the chat box as needed. Next slide, please. Outlined here is what you can expect from today's event. We will be introducing our new leadership, as well as hearing from Carbondale's very own Stephen Mitchell on Jackson County Enterprise and Opportunity Zone incentives. I would also like to note Stephen missed the paralleled Carbondale Chamber of Commerce event today to receive their Business Leader of the Year award. So congratulations, Steve. Midway through, we will be inviting local leaders to participate in a community update session. We will be asking a leader from each of the communities who wish to participate to discuss what is going on in your community, challenges you face, and what we can expect to see in the future. Next slide, please. Jackson Growth Alliance, or JGA, is the economic development body created to represent and encourage economic development in Jackson County through the attraction, growth, and retention of job opportunities. Next slide. Our organization is supported by permanent and community members from public, private, and not-for-profit sectors who have a vested interest in the success of Jackson County and in turn Southern Illinois. Each year, we invite and encourage new members to join our efforts. Next slide. From these members, board seats become available. 2021 brought on a few new faces. Jamie Green with Country Financial and Murfreesboro Main Street has recently been welcomed to our board, as well as Kevin Clark of Carbondale and the SIU Foundation. Sarah Gray, the new System Director for Business and Economic Development with SIH, has also joined our efforts. This is our current board leadership and the organization to which they represent. I will now pass this on to Joni Beth Bailey, our Vice Chair. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's with great pleasure that I introduce our new Executive Director, Dr. Brian Chapman. Dr. Brian Chapman is a Jackson County native. He's retiring from SIU after over 3 decades with SIU in a number of capacities. Most recently, he worked in the position of Executive Director for Regional and Intergovernmental Affairs under the Office of the Provost. Before that, he worked for the Office of the System President and served as Assistant Vice Chancellor for several years. He also has experience with the University Foundation. He's a graduate of SIU with a bachelor's, master's of public administration, and a PhD in political science. He's also an active educator, adjunct faculty. He's ready to get out and about, make visits to private businesses and public offices. In his interview, one of the phrases I jotted down that struck me was he wants to dream, then work, to tap the untapped economic potential in Jackson County, especially those areas outside the population areas of Murfreesboro and Carbondale. We are delighted. We think he's a perfect fit. It's energized our group. We had a board meeting yesterday and everybody was there, and we know what they look like from here down now. So I am going to turn the floor over to Dr. Chapman and with a big thank you.
Joni, thank you. And I thank everyone for being a part of the group today, learning about enterprise zones and opportunity zones. Steve, I'm really looking forward to your presentation. For me, Jackson County is one gigantic opportunity zone. Like all of you who have registered today, I love Jackson County. It's home for me and my family for many generations. And whatever I can do to promote Jackson County to create investments, retain jobs, and create new jobs, that's what we're going to do and work hard to do so. So together, pulling all in the same direction, I know we can get this job done. And on a personal note for me, whatever I can do to help all of us to keep our kids and grandkids here and to prosper is what it's all about. So with that, thank you so much. I'm excited. July 1st is actually the first day on the job. And looking forward to meeting with each and every one of you. And for all the registrants here today, I will also be reaching out to you as well. So again, thank you so much. Somebody say next slide.
Well, thanks, Brian. Yeah, we're all looking forward to having you here, having to work with you, getting to work with you. And so on behalf of City of Carbondale, welcome, JGA. We're glad to have you. Good afternoon, everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Stephen Mitchell. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Carbondale. I am the Enterprise Zone Administrator for the Enterprise Zone in Jackson County. And the Opportunity Zone that was designated for Jackson County happens to be located within the City of Carbondale. So I'll be discussing that a little bit. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. So Enterprise Zone, what is it? Well, first, it's a creation of state law. So the Enterprise Zone and the incentives that are associated with it were created by state law originally in 1982. It's been since amended a number of times, but its main purpose is to stimulate economic growth and neighborhood revitalization. Excuse me. In economic depressed areas, the first Enterprise Zone went in effect in 1990 in Jackson County, and it was in existence for 20 years. It was then extended for another 10, and the original zone expired February 28th in 2020. In anticipation of that, we filed an application in 2018 for a brand new zone. The zone could not be extended any longer. We had to create a brand new zone. So what the Enterprise Zone decided was to basically create the existing zone on top of the same boundaries as the previous zone. Next slide, please. So speaking of Enterprise Zone governance, it's the EZ, or the Enterprise Zone. I'm going to refer it to as the EZ if that's okay with everyone. It's a little simpler to do. It's governed by what is officially called a designated zone organization board. But what that means is it's made up of the mayor of Murfreesboro, the mayor of the City of Carbondale, and the Jackson County Board chair. They're the ones who make all the decisions on expansion or the application for the new zone or anything that has to do with the zone organization. I'm the day-to-day administrator. So they designated the Economic Development Director for the City of Carbondale as the administrator, and I've been in this position for about 5 years. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about incentives, because this is really the meat and potatoes of the Enterprise Zone. It's a strong incentive to attract new businesses, and it's a great incentive to help existing businesses expand. That's really kind of the like I said, the meat and potatoes of this thing. And the first and probably the most significant incentive is the property tax incentive. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about how an Enterprise Zone works and how the property tax incentive works. As it says in this first line, property tax on real estate improvements that raise a commercial, industrial, or manufacturing property's fair market value by more than $10,000 is abated. So it's not, your taxes are not frozen. It's the additional tax that you would be levied on your property, on your real estate, for improvements that have been made, new improvements that have been made. So for instance, for projects that create fewer than 100 jobs, 100% of the property tax on the new improvement is abated for the first 5 years after project completion. And then for the next 5 years, it's abated at 50%. And I'm going to go through an example here to kind of help clarify that a little bit or illustrate that. But for projects that create 100 or more jobs, then 100% of the property tax on the new improvement is abated for the 10 years after completion. Next slide, please. So a few more facts about the property tax on new improvements. Owners of properties listed on the National Historic Register of Historic Places are eligible for 100% abatement for the first 7 years and 50% for the next 3 years. So a little bit of an extra incentive to upgrade these important historical properties. Property tax abatements apply to building renovations, expansions, and construction of new buildings. Property tax abatement provisions do not exempt owners of property in the Enterprise Zone from property tax altogether. In this next example, you'll see that. Property tax abates the program abates property tax on new improvements, but does not abate the tax paid on existing buildings and land. Abatement on individual property is also limited to the amount of tax attributable to eligible improvements on the property. Next slide, please. So this is our hypothetical illustration here of how this works. And I want to point out from the early on here is that property enterprise zone does not freeze an owner's property tax. It's a little complicated, but let me walk through this. And if you have questions, please enter them in the chat throughout this presentation. I would love to try to clarify anything that may not be as clear to you as it could be. So let's look at this example. Tax year 2020. Taxing bodies or the county has its own language. All right. So the tax bill that we get this year in 2021 will actually be for tax year 2020. So let's say this year or in year 2020, you've got a piece of property that its fair market value is $150,000. It's a commercial property. On your tax bill, what you'll see is a net taxable value of $50,000. So that's the amount that the tax will be levied on. It's 1/3 of your fair market value. So your tax bill is, let's say, $6,000 on that $50,000 net taxable value property. And so there's no new improvements. There are, and so your tax bill is what it says on the bill itself. So it's $6,000, no abatement. But in 2021, you invest in the property and you've doubled the fair market value of that property. So that's a significant investment. You've maybe added a building or expanded the building or added to the property. But at any rate, the work that you've done has doubled the fair market value of that property. It's doubled your net taxable value. 1/3 of $300,000 is $100,000. And that will be the amount that your taxes are levied at. So at a 12% levy, it's your tax bill will be $12,000. But you see the next column where it says tax bill without EZ or with EZ with enterprise zone. Since your new improvements doubled the price, you're only paying $6,000, what you're originally paying before you made the improvements. Without the enterprise zone, you'd be paying $12,000 a year, but with the enterprise zone, after doubling the value, you're paying $6,000. And the annual abatement for the first 5 years would be $6,000. I'm making a lot of assumptions here that the the fair market value of the property does not increase and that the tax rate does not increase. So I'm trying to keep, it's a little bit complicated, and I'm trying to keep it as less complicated as possible here. So after 5 years, you've saved $30,000. In 2026, you're going into year 6. Your fair market value is still $300,000. Your net taxable value is still $100,000. Again, making the assumption that does not go up. And your tax bill would still be $12,000 without the enterprise zone. But now that the first 5 years has expired, now you're at 50% of tax abatement for the new improvements. And so that will be half of the $6,000 savings. That puts you at $9,000. So you're saving an additional $3,000 a year for the next 5 years. So after 10 years rolls around, in 2031, still the same fair market value, still the same net taxable value, still the same tax rate. But now you can see the annual abatement is 0 because now we go back, the 10-year incentive period has expired, and now you're going to go back to your original tax bill or what it would have been had you not had the enterprise zone. So after 10 years, you've saved roughly $45,000 from your investment. So I see that there's at least one question here. Let me take a look. In an enterprise zone, is the property tax abated for all taxing districts or only city taxing? It's a great question. In Jackson County, it's all taxing districts, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. The taxing districts have to approve it. They have to pass a resolution within their local governing board, local governing body, that approves that tax abatement. Unfortunately, in all the areas where Jackson County's enterprise zone is located, all taxing bodies have approved abatement. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. Are there any questions on this example? I tried not to go through it too fast, and I know it can be a little bit confusing. I tried to set it up as clearly as I could. Okay, very good. Next slide, please. So there are some other incentives. That property tax is the big one, but frankly, depending on the sort of work, the nature of the work you're going to be doing on the improvements, this could be a pretty big one too. And this is a deduction of sales tax for all building materials. Now there's 100% sales tax deduction on construction and renovation of buildings. Now this is would be categorized as anything that would become part of the real estate. In other words, it's not machinery, it's not furniture, it's stuff that becomes, it's equipment, materials that become part of the real estate that would stay there once you moved or to sell the property. So paint, wallpaper, lumber, flooring, restrooms, all that kind of stuff, anything that becomes part of the original of the structure. And I think that this is fairly self-explanatory. And to get this, actually, if you go to the next slide, please. Oh, well, one more, and then we'll talk about the process of getting this. Thank you. So this is actually the application for the certificate that will allow you to get the real estate, or I'm sorry, the sales tax abatement. This is online, available online, and you would fill this out. It goes to our office. We would review it, ask questions if there's any additional information that we need, and then there is a fee of 0.5% of the project cost, and then once all that fee has been paid, the certificate gets issued. In the case of the City of Carbondale, the project is in the City of Carbondale. The building permit would also be issued at the same time that this certificate is issued. A certificate is listed with the state of Illinois Department of Revenue, so they have a copy of this, and there is some reporting on this in the years after you've received this benefit. Could you go backwards one slide, please? Thank you. So then the last incentive associated with enterprise zone is the waiving of building permit fees, depending on the size of your project. And this is for City of Carbondale only. I was talking to Mayor Stevens in Murfreesboro, and he said his fees are so low, it's really kind of a wash. But in Carbondale, they're a little bit higher, and this could be a significant savings as well. So building permits, plumbing permits, electrical, demolition, site plan, and zoning certificate fees are all waived. And that can add up quite a bit as well. So next slide, one more. And that's the second page of that application I mentioned for the sales tax certificate. Next slide, please. Good. Let's just go through some general questions that we get asked on a pretty regular basis. First of all, how do I apply for enterprise zone benefits? First, you would need to reach out to me in my office. As a matter of fact, let me get you my contact information. I will get that in the chat right now. It's in the chat box right now. So if you want to apply or to see if your project is in the enterprise zone, reach out to me and I will let you know. And then basically all you have to do is just fill out that form that I'd mentioned. And then that pretty much gets everything in motion. A couple times a year, I communicate with Jackson County to let them know what properties are in the enterprise zone so that their property tax can be abated once they get reassessed. Their property gets reassessed after the improvements have been made. Next slide. Can the boundaries of the zone be changed? Yes, they can, and they do on occasion. I mentioned that when the new zone took effect, January 2020, the boundaries did not change, but there is a process to change the boundaries. And my answer here is that contact the City of Carbondale for detailed information. The reason I did give a more detailed answer is because it's a very complicated process. We have to go through the state on it. There's two different options. One option is less burdensome than the other, but it's based on demographics of the area where the new zone boundaries would extend into. So it's we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis of whether or not we can do the easier option or the harder option. Neither one of them are easy, though. They're very long, very complicated, and very time-consuming. But yes, it can be expanded. Next slide, please. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Next slide. Opportunity zones. I'm not quite as well versed in opportunity zones. I'll just say that up front. It's an incentive that I do not administer. And as a matter of fact, we could have. Okay, I just had a question. Let me pick this one up. Joni, can a business owner apply for both enterprise and TIF? Actually, I thought I had that question in there. Maybe it didn't make the. Thank you for asking that. That actually was in the original slide, but it didn't make it in there. Yes, it's a little bit more complicated when a TIF district and an enterprise zone district overlap. Now, when I say TIF, that means tax increment financing district. It's another incentive district used to help incentivize redevelopment of existing properties. So the goal of the TIF is a little bit different than the goal of the enterprise zone. And without getting too much in the weeds, let me just kind of answer your question with when an enterprise zone and a TIF district overlap, the property tax incentive of the TIF district takes precedent over that of the enterprise zone. But the enterprise zone benefits of the sales tax deduction and the permit fees are applicable. So you get sort of the best of both worlds. You get the TIF related property tax incentive, and then you get the enterprise zone related sales tax incentive and the permit fee incentive. So thank you for that question. Okay. Back to opportunity zones. So basically the opportunity zones were created in 2017 for the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. And the purpose of the opportunity zone was to incentivize investment in distressed areas, similar to enterprise zone, similar to TIF district. But the way this investment occurs or the sources of funding for this investment is very unique. And basically, it was used to spur economic development, job creation in under-resourced communities. That's their official description. But basically, it's distressed communities, communities that have had high unemployment and a lot of other issues for a long period of time. The good thing about an opportunity zone and the way it works, next slide, please, is that it has the potential to bring in outside investment to a region. And so basically with this little diagram here, you see that the investor has capital gains. Capital gains are incurred when money that an investor has put into a project has increased in value. So they've invested, let's say, $1 million in a project, then they realize gains of $500,000. So they cash out and then they got $1.5 million that they work with. That extra $500,000 would be considered a capital gain. So the opportunity zone allows an investor to take their capital gains, in this example, that $500,000, and invest it into what's called a qualified opportunity fund. That's an investment vehicle that's used to pool capital gains from multiple investors and to invest into projects in an opportunity zone. Again, it's kind of an arcane way of investing. It's not as straightforward as a lot of other ways to invest are, but like I said, it has the opportunity to bring in outside dollars into our region. So once all these capital gains from multiple investors are pooled into a qualified opportunity fund, Then projects are identified in opportunity zones and they're invested. And next slide, please. And so this is sort of a rundown of the actual incentives. So there's a deferral of a tax on the invested capital gains through 2026. So I pull out my $500,000 that I'd earned from a previous investment, and I put it in an opportunity fund, and that fund invests in a project in an opportunity zone. I don't have to pay tax on that original $500,000 until 2026. So that's the first financial incentive. It's a deferred tax, basically. The reduction of capital gains on investments then held in the qualified opportunity fund for at least 5 years by 2026. If you hold it in 5 years, then your reduction investment in quality opportunity funds for at least. So basically what it does is it reduces the dollar amount that you would have to pay taxes on. You still would have to pay taxes on that $500,000, but they're going to reduce the amount that you actually have to pay. And then finally, permanent exclusion from taxable income on capital gains from investment returns of qualified opportunity funds is held for 10 plus years. So after 10 years, if the value of my investment in the opportunity fund increases, I don't have to pay any tax on that increasement at all. So again, and I apologize, but that's as simple as I can make these. They're very complicated. And if you're looking to invest in an opportunity fund, I always recommend people to reach out to their CPA, tax lawyer, someone who's very well versed in opportunity funds, because it's a very specialized form of investment. Next slide, please. Here's a map of our opportunity zone. You can see the county level map. It's mostly all relegated to Carbondale. And let me talk a little bit about how that was created. When the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was passed, Opportunity Zone was a little known incentive. There wasn't a lot of press on it. We kind of found out about it by accident. But once we did find out about it, we really kind of kicked into gear and tried to find out how they worked and where they're going to be located. But the locations for opportunity zones were not set yet. And what the law allowed the states to do was for the governor to designate opportunity zones in their state in a certain way. So the way Illinois did it is that we got together, actually, my office and JGA's office worked together in collaboration with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity to look at the qualifications for opportunity zones. And we put together some recommended areas for an opportunity zone. And then the governor's office made the final decision. Well, the funny thing is the opportunity zone you see here, only one of those are actually census tracts. Those three little partitioned areas you see, and you'll see, I'm going to have a better map in a second. But when they created the enterprise zone, they didn't really listen to our recommendations, I think is what I'm suggesting. We actually offered some things that were out in the county rather than all in Carbondale. But that's what they chose, so that's what we've got. This is just kind of an overview of some of the important assets of the county. Little bit of sort of the private sector employment and some of the rough numbers. Next slide, please. Here's a little bit better map. So you can see some more detail here. East Main, or Route 13, south. So it includes some of that East Side Business District, includes SIU campus, and then it includes a lot of residential and rural area. So it's an interesting choice for an investment zone. Next slide, please. These are some of the projects that we selected as potential projects for the Opportunity Zone. Business Park East is located within the zone, and it's just off of 13 on Reed Station Road, the south part of Reed Station Road. These are undeveloped land that and zone industrial that would be a decent opportunity for some investor. Next slide. Grand Avenue. We've got some property along Grand that's ripe for development in the retail district. Next slide. And then the business park. SIU's got a really great location that's prime for some private investment, and that's qualified for the opportunity zone as well. Next slide. And that's it for me. Looking at the chat. Question is how many enterprise zones are in Jackson County? Same for TIF districts. There's only one enterprise zone in Jackson County. There can only be one in Jackson County. So it's the Murfreesboro, Carbondale, Jackson County Enterprise Zone is its official title. And I did not provide a map because we don't have enough screen on our computer to actually see what the map looks like. It looks sort of like a gerrymandered voting district. It's spread out all throughout the county. Again, if you've got a project or if you know anyone who has a project and you're interested to see if it's in the enterprise zone, please reach out to me. My contact information is in the chat, and let me know. So that's it for me. Kevin, I think you're up. Thank you, everyone.
I'm up. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I was asked to greet everyone and ask that if we have any elected officials, if they would take this time to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what's going on in your neck of the woods. I see Mayor Shingleton is on. If she is on, would you like to say a few words, Mayor? Mayor, you're on mute.
Yes, okay, I took it off. Yes, hello. I don't really have anything at this time.
Okay. And looking through the list, I don't see Mayor Stevens on the list, but is it Mayor Stevens on the call? No? Okay. We do have some state of Illinois representatives. Kim Watson. Kim, are you on the call?
Yes, I am.
Good afternoon. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I'm Kim Watson. I'm with the Illinois Department of Commerce. I work the southern 19 counties in Illinois. I'm happy to be here and to assist in any way with any projects or anything else. I work quite a bit with Steve. I've worked with Brian in the past and look forward to working with him some more. So just happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Husson, Jennifer, are you on the call today? Good afternoon. Oh, and Jennifer, you're on mute, please.
Jennifer is not on the call and she has her intern taking notes.
I see. All right. Thank you. Appreciate you taking notes. Oh, and just so you know, this event is being recorded, so she can always get in contact with Brooke and make arrangements. Have I missed anyone? Any other elected officials that might want to say a few words, or representatives of a governmental body? Okay. Well, thank you for those of you who write a few words. I'd like to go to the next slide and ask Jamie to say a few words about membership.
Jamie, you're muted.
Thank you. Just going on. So today we're going to talk a little bit about membership and how to become a community member with JGA. So representative of an organization, it can be with a community organization, and then representative is appointed for a one-year term, and that coincides with JGA's fiscal year of January through December. Representative may be reappointed by their organization to an additional one-year consecutive term. Community member can select a sponsorship level that best fits their organization, and further opportunity to potentially join our board. And we'll have some details coming up on how to contact if you're interested. Next slide.
Okay, Tamika will not be able to join us today due to a family emergency, so I will take it from here. So again, thank you for joining us today. And as always, you can contact us at director@jacksonbiz.org for any questions or any further discussion on how we can assist you or how we can collaborate to make the county a better place. So thank you, everyone, and let us know if